Howdy-ho, Andrew here. Welcome to the Onion Buns and welcome to another episode of Let's Talk. Doug Ford, the doughboy, has lost his frickin' mind. He wasn't working with a full load ever to begin with, but choo-choo, the train has left the station. Hence why I'm using this background today. A month ago, I made a video, and I dare say I got to give myself a pat on the back. It was funny because Doug Ford made such a spectacle of himself. I'll link the video at the end of this video so you can go watch it if you want, but I'm not going to play it because it was 30 minutes or so I'm not going to play the whole thing. And I don't need to because, wouldn't you know it, Doug Ford has given me more ammunition. This guy can't help himself, and it's so funny. Like, he gets so frickin' upset when a company moves to the States. Or, well, actually, in the case of Crown Royal, they didn't move to the States. They just closed down a bottling plant. There's still a bottling plant in Quebec, and Crown Royal is still distilled in Manitoba. It's just in Ontario. 200 jobs were going to be lost. Technically, from every report out there, Crown Royal was the parent company of Crown Royal anyway. They were doing everything they could to transfer the 200 jobs from Ontario to Quebec or Manitoba if the workers wanted. So really the only people that were losing jobs were those that were refusing to transfer. And, you know, don't get me wrong, that's not a great position, but this is what Doug Ford wanted. Like, I don't get why he's so upset, because this is what he supported in the last federal election by betraying Pierre Poilievre and propping up Mark Carney. Like, this is what we all told him was going to happen. And, you know, he just took those doughboy that's usually around his belly, shoved them in his ears, and went, la, 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 I can't hear anyone. You know, if it wasn't so funny, his antics, it would be pathetically sad. You know, because we are talking about people's livelihoods, but these livelihoods are being lost because of the Premier of Ontario and the choices he made. So now he's doing this tough man act, and it's just, you gotta sit back and laugh. At this point, you just gotta sit back and laugh at it. So what I'm gonna do is, first video I'm gonna show you is the news clip of him attempting to pour out the bottle of Crown Royal. And that's basically what my last video was about. Is it took I forget how long now, but it was an insanely long period of time to pour out this bottle of Crown Royal, because he's not smart enough to understand. Here, I showed this in my last video. See, it's a cap. It comes off. Well, that's what the Crown Royal had, is a cap. But Doug Ford's just not smart enough to know you go and get the plastic cap off, and then you can pour it out in a matter of seconds. No, he stood there for, I think it was like 5 minutes. It might have been longer, I forget now. But yeah, he's shaking it and he's swirling it, and he can't get this stuff to come out. And it's comedy gold. I find some of the greatest comedy in life is comedy that was not intended to be comedy. And that's what we get with Doug Ford. So I'm going to show you that video. And then I'm going to show you his latest mental meltdowns, where he's back at it. He's rah, 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 you know, and it's just so funny. It's like, all of this is avoidable. All of this could have been avoided if he just had even a lick of political sense in him and didn't back Mark Carney in the last federal election. We would have Pierre Poilievre as a prime minister. His bottling plant would still be in Ontario because companies wouldn't be leaving Canada because of the rules and regulations that Carney and Ford are putting in. Like, nobody wants to do business here. It's really that simple, people. You know, the other thing I find, and I'll bring this up later as well, but what I find is really funny is, and not ha-ha funny, just pathetically funny, is He is going on and on and on about 200 jobs, which I just said are actually not 200 jobs. Some of those people accepted transfers. So I don't know what the real number is. It might be 100. It might be 50 that lost their jobs. I don't know. Well, we just last week had an announcement that over 1,000 jobs are being lost in Alberta because of Mark Carney's anti-oil agenda. Those jobs are going to the States as well. And wouldn't you know it? Doug Ford's not saying anything about that. I wonder why that is. He's calling on all of Canada to boycott booze because his province is losing 200 jobs. And that's really what it's about. It's not about the workers. It's about the tax base. He's losing 200 taxpayers. That's really what it's about. And he's going on and boycott them and boycott. It's dead silent when other provinces are losing thousands and thousands and thousands of jobs. Where's Doug Ford? No, not to be heard. No, nothing. Nada. Amazing how that happens, huh? So anyway, here's this first video.
Over at Diageo. Okay, so not everyone knows what Diageo is, but everyone knows what Crown Royal is. Now, Amherstburg
doesn't even know the name of the town in his own province. You know, like, come on. And I'm sure he'll say, oh, I was just stumbling. It was just stumbling juice. Yeah, I'm sorry. It's like, if you're the premier of a province and you're doing a big promo stunt, because that's what this really was, is a stunt, you got to know the city name at least, the town name at least. Just common sense, people.
Beautiful town, hardworking people. They had that plant there. They started, I did the research, went all the way back to the 1920s. Approximately about 180 people. In the summer, it spikes to 200 people they employ. This town relies on this company, and they produce this Crown Royal. They're fabulous people.
They don't produce the Crown Royal, they bottle the Crown Royal. The Crown Royal is produced in Manitoba. Always has been, always will be. So his research is, one of his staffers gave him a sheet. He skimmed over and went, okay, I'm an expert.
I talked to Unifor, Lana Payne over the weekend. These people are devastated. In a small town, you get rid of 180 people. And these are the rocket scientists over at Diageo. So they're based in France, and I can picture this all going down. And by the way, I spoke to the gentleman that runs the North American operations. And I said, how can you do this to your largest customer in Ontario?
It's not a large customer. Ontario has the largest market share in Canada. The largest customer for Crown Royal is the United States, and it's not even remotely close. It's like 70% of the Crown Royal goes to the United States. That's their largest share, the largest customer. Doug Ford is like Mark Carney in a lot of ways. He likes to twist words to give new meaning to them, but he's not being honest or factual about it.
I said, is there any incentives I can give you to stay here, to save these jobs? No, it's not happening. I said, so it is what it is. And he went on to say, well, you're not the largest in Ontario or in the country. LCBO is the largest customer in North America.
False. He has the largest market share in Canada. That's true. But the United States is the largest purchaser of Crown Royal in North America. You know, I get so tired of these guys telling falsehoods. I really do, because it's so easy to research.
More than California, more than Texas, more than all of them, LCBO, the people of Ontario, have made Crown Royal, Diageo, that has Smirnoff's, a whole bunch of other stuff, the largest. So can you imagine a board, right, sitting around, or even a kitchen table? Are you ready for this, guys? They're sitting around and said, okay, how's South America doing? They're doing okay. How's Europe? Yeah. How's North America? Okay, everything's good. Oh, let's target our largest customer. Who targets their largest customer? To put it in perspective, $740 million, $750 million. The people of Ontario support this company. And their payroll is 16, maybe $17 million. So you're jeopardizing $740 million worth of business for what, $17 million, and you're going to hurt a community? You're going to make these people struggle that they can't pay rent? They aren't going to pay a mortgage? They barely put food on the table when there's not too many companies in that small town? What, have you lost your mind? Like, I think they're a few fries short of a Happy Meal, these people. They're sitting around absolutely just smug as they come. They're hurting Ontario residents, they're hurting the people that work at Crown Royal. So you know something, a message to the CEO in France: you hurt my people, I'm going to hurt you. You're going to feel the pain in February when these people don't have a paycheck. And I'm going to stand up for the people of Ontario, and I encourage all of Canadians, all of Ontarians, stand.
See, suddenly it's a Canadian issue. Well, Doug, when the 1,000 jobs were announced leaving Alberta last week, why wasn't that a Canadian issue? Under the Trudeau government, with Mark Carney as a key advisor, his main advisor, 350,000 oil field jobs were lost. And you know how often he talked about that? That much. Gee, what's more important? Let's think about it. 150,000 jobs in the oil field, which is, I think it was last time I looked, is like 28% of Canada's GDP, the largest GDP out of any industry in Canada, or 200 jobs in a liquor company. Now, I'm not making light of these people that are losing their jobs. I'm really not. I'm making light of this fat piece of crap.
Stand up for the people, because you don't know if you're next. But the thing that ticks me off, I get it. I get that companies move back and forth. But what I don't get, when you're someone's largest customer in North America, you're going after the largest customer. You know something? I always say smart people aren't too smart, and you guys are about as dumb as a bag of hammers for doing this. So, you know
Here it
something?
comes.
I found a bottle, and I don't even drink, of Crown Oil, right?
Notice how he slipped that in. I found a bottle, and I don't even drink. Crown Royal, that is.
See that Crown Royal? I saw it at home. So this is what I think about Crown.
There's the cap. You can here's the cap right here. That is a control spout. You can't get more than a trickle out, as you can see, with that in there. But he's not smart enough to go, because that's all it would take. Just a little flick and pop, it comes out, and you're golden. But he can't figure that out.
Oil. That's what they could do. And I think everyone else should do the same thing. Start supporting companies that make whiskey here by Ontario.
Again, they don't make whiskey there. They bottle it. It's just a bottling plant. They make the whiskey in Manitoba. But you notice how he never mentions Manitoba. He tries to convince everybody that Crown Royal is anti-Canada, but Crown Royal employs a lot of people in Manitoba, which he doesn't care about, and employs another, I don't even know how many, in Quebec at a much larger bottling plant, which he doesn't mention. It's still a Canadian company, and he's calling for the boycott of a Canadian company.
People, that's what we need to do, is support each other. You know something, I'm going to make this even come out quicker, because it's not coming out. I know Mayor Barry wants to lie on the floor right now. No thanks. But no, I wish I could get this out coming out quicker, but I'll stand here until it's all done. Anyways, folks, thank you. My brothers and sisters in uniform over at Crown Royal, I got your backs. We're going to be there to help you. And by the way, I'm going to send you the cleaning bill to...
He never did figure out how to get it to come out quicker. He's just not a smart man. He's really not. So that was his original mental meltdown. And it still makes me laugh to this day. It's just like, It's a plastic cap, you frickin' moron. You just pop. So, but Doug didn't want to be outdone. So today, Doug did another attack on Crown Royal, and this time he included Smirnoffs.
Well, baseball and booze often go hand in hand, but the premier is doubling down on his threat tonight to pull a popular brand of alcohol off store shelves. Our Tina Yazdani joins us now. And Tina, this is all tied to Donald Trump's trade war and one company's push to shift some of its operations out of the province.
Okay, now I'm getting so tired of City News and Global, and this really doesn't have anything to do with Trump. It really doesn't. I'm not a Trump fan. But this doesn't have anything to do with Trump. This has to do with Carney's policies, his taxation, his usury fees. Canada is not in a good position economically under the Carney government. And we've seen plenty of companies moving. The last number I think I heard is it was something like $87 billion worth of investment has left Canada this year under the Carney government. So that's more than just one little bottling plant in Ontario. That's a ton of investment all across Canada. That's what this has to do. This has nothing to do with the tariffs. Like, the truth is, Trump's tariffs, as stupid as they are, and they are stupid, they don't hurt us all that bad. What hurts us is carbon taxes, industrial carbon taxes on the industrial carbon tax, usury taxes, and on and on and on and on and on. Companies don't want to invest here. It's that simple, people. They don't want to invest here. They don't want to do business here. We need to change the domestic laws. That's what Doug Ford voted for, supporting Carney's laws. And now he's paying the price for it. That's really what this is about. Now, they're going to tell you it's all about Trump. And, you know, it's so frustrating that we can't get real news anymore. But anyway, here we go.
Yeah, Melissa, Ontarians looking to buy Crown Royal and Smirnoff and other Diageo products may soon be out of luck. The premier says pulling those products off LCBO shelves is the only way to hold the company accountable for job losses.
A message to all the bigwigs. All the bigwigs at Diageo, I swear to God, those bottles of Crown Royal are coming off the LCBO shelves when the last person walks out through that door.
The premier was met with cheers after escalating the fight with the Crown Royal bottling company at a jobs rally this weekend.
We're going to fight like we've never fought.
With 200 jobs on the line, it is the first time Doug Ford has promised to outright ban the product from the LCBO if the company moves forward with plans to shut down its bottling facility in southwestern Ontario.
That's what happens when you try to undermine the people of Ontario.
Ford doubled down on his remarks at a press conference in Quebec on Monday, even suggesting other products under Diageo's portfolio are in jeopardy.
We'll look at Smirnoffs next.
To even think about banning these products at the LCBO would be undemocratic.
Food policy expert Sylvain Charles-Lebois tells us the premier's tone sets a dangerous precedent.
The government is deciding who wins and who loses.
I'm not a lawyer, so full disclosure there, I'm not a lawyer, so don't take legal advice from me. But I have no doubt that what Doug Ford is proposing is illegal, and he will go to court and lose over it. Because it's a production. What he's doing is performance politics. This is what Carney does. It's performance. There's no substance behind it. He is pandering to a crowd, in this case unionized, and he's just pandering, telling them what they want to hear, putting on a performance, and then saying, vote for me. But he's actually not helping them. Like, if Doug Ford wanted to help them, then he would be talking to the company on, okay, what do we need to do? How do we make this easier here? What needs to change in Ontario? Like you've seen Smith in Alberta, Premier Smith in Alberta. She is putting through provincial rules into our constitution so that Alberta does not have to follow Carney's international promises to his WEF and his UN and China backers. So why is Doug Ford not doing that? Because Doug Ford is in bed with Mark Carney. That's just the long and the short of it. Doug Ford runs for the Conservatives in Ontario. He's a Liberal, and his policies are liberal, and he supports the Liberal policies. So that's really what this is about.
Not the consumer in the end. And
What are the trickle-down effects of that?
I think it opens up a dangerous road. It's basically the state deciding what.
Aged and distilled in Canada since 1939. That's who Doug Ford wants you to boycott, a Canadian company. Now, personally, again, full disclosure, I don't drink. If you watched any of my other videos, I've mentioned a number of times, I'm on disability. I take a laundry list of medications just to get out of bed every day. And I can't mix alcohol with those. So I don't drink. I quit drinking, I want to say as far back as 30 years now. 30 years ago, 25 years ago, something like that. But that really doesn't matter because it's a Canadian company. Like, ask yourself, how is boycotting a Canadian company punishing, as I said at the start, Donald Trump and his tariffs? Somebody explain that to me. Please come in the comment section and explain to me how boycotting a Canadian company is sticking it to Donald Trump. Because I don't understand it.
You should be allowed to buy and not buy, and that doesn't sound like a free market to me.
The closure of the facility comes as tensions escalate with the U.S. amid a trade war. Diageo has explained it is closing the facility and moving some operations to the U.S. to better serve American customers.
America is their largest customer. That makes perfect sense. And I have no doubt that part of the closure is because of the tariffs, because if they bottle it in the States, they probably don't have to do the import tariff. Okay, so that's probably part of it. But that's what Doug Ford supported by backing Mark Carney. See, this is what it comes down to, is Doug Ford is trying to make the villain out of these guys, and he's the one that created this situation. He did it himself, but he won't take responsibility for it.
But Crown Royal for Canadian customers.
By the way, I don't drink, but blackberry myrrh, that sounds really tasty to me.
Will continue to be mashed, distilled, and bottled in Canada, just not in Ontario.
We're all talking about, a Team Canada approach, and I don't want to see us eroding our relationship with other provinces over issues like this.
Critics call the Premier's words and actions empty.
I see a lot of, stunts and threats, but I don't see any actual action. Where is...
It's a cold day in hell when I agree with the NDP. Because I'm not a socialist. Not at all. But she's right. It's performative. It's a stunt. That's all Doug Ford does is stunts.
It's the actual sit down and work out solutions and fight for those jobs.
The Premier says Diageo is Ontario's largest customer in North America, doing $765 million in business with the LCBO annually, Melissa.
Yeah, and Tina, another topic, a source is speaking out tonight about a concerning change at school boards that are now under government supervision.
Yeah, Melissa, it's being described as a slippery slope away from public accountability. City News has learned the Ford government is restricting public access to school board committee meetings.
Another Carney legislation. Carney wants to do this on the internet. He wants the internet. Anyone that does... If you go look at the UK, Carney helped draft the UK. 12,100 people in 2025 have been arrested for disagreeing with the government on social media. No, you didn't mishear me. 12,100 people, and it may be higher, this is about a month-old stat I'm quoting, have been arrested in 2025 for disagreeing with Stammer's government on social media. That's censorship, people. Blocking live streams of school board committee meetings? That's censorship.
The Ministry of Education has directed school boards under its supervision, including the TDSB, to no longer live stream the meetings. Now, no reason has been given for this change, and while the public can still attend in person, the chair of the TDSB's Special Education Advisory Committee tells us that these live streams were particularly important to families with students with disabilities. Critics are calling it another way the government is silencing parent voices.
it's particularly concerning when you're talking about parents of children with special needs, because they're the most likely to be able to not attend the meetings in person. This is the government deciding that they want to shut down parent involvement in education in this province. What is it that the government is so afraid of people knowing?
And we did reach out to the education minister's office. They didn't give us a reason for the change, but they did tell us in a statement that minutes, agendas, and decisions from all committees are posted publicly to ensure transparency and accessibility for families and the broader community. And by the way, there is a special education advisory committee meeting tonight. It will be the first one that is not live streamed as a result of this change. Melissa.
Okay, thank you, Tina.
All right, for the final one, we have City News again. And it's going back onto the booze. You know, Doug Ford is he's a mess. And he's becoming a bigger and bigger mess daily. You know, I started this video laughing, and watching him try to figure out how to pour it out of a bottle still makes me giggle like a little schoolgirl. But truthfully, this is, you know, I don't even know how, this is authoritarianism. You know, they're arbitrarily taking stuff. They said it in the last video. It should be the consumers that punish Crown Royal if they want to. They go in there, they decide if they want to buy it or not. It shouldn't be up to Ford. And again, I don't drink. I have absolutely no horse in this race. None. You know, Crown Royal makes no money off me. I don't drink. But it shouldn't be up to Ford or any government to tell us what we can or cannot eat or drink, as long as those items fall under our standards, which Crown Royal does. And it has since 1939. So it's not up to him to throw a temper tantrum and pull all their booze off the shelves. It's up to the Ontario public to say, no, I support the union, or I support the workers, and I'm not buying that brand, and it's on the people themselves. It's not up to Ford.
You might recall it was about a month ago where Ford was at a press conference, and yes, he did have a bottle of Crown Royal from his home in hand. He made a point of bringing.
Okay, I should mention, I don't believe for a second that he had a bottle of Crown Royal sitting in his home undrank. I don't believe it. He went out and he bought it like a prop, and then he lied about it. Because this is what Doug Ford does.
It so he could pour it out in front of the cameras. That was in response to Diageo, the parent company, announcing that it would be shutting down its bottling facility in Amherstburg, Ontario by February in order to set up shop in the US to handle that market specifically. That's going to impact 200 jobs. They will be lost. That's obviously a sensitive issue given the impact of US tariffs on the province's economy. So over the weekend, Ford was at a Protect Canadian Jobs rally in Brampton. He brought up Diageo again, threatening a boycott of its prized product. But then, this morning, he doubled up on that again while in Quebec, saying he'd be willing to take it yet another step. Here's a listen at what he had to say on both accounts.
A message to all the bigwigs. All the bigwigs at Diageo. I swear to God, those bottles of...
I just noticed Doug Ford is wearing Unifor t-shirt. So now he's propping up unions. I thought he was the Premier of Ontario. I didn't realize that he was a union board member. Maybe they should have an election in Ontario to get a premier, because apparently Doug's given up his premiership to become a unioner.
Crown Royal are coming off the LCBO shelves. When the last person walks out through that door,
The LCBO is the largest purchaser of alcohol in the entire world. And I'll use that leverage to make sure we send a signal that we are pulling Crown Royal off our shelves as soon as the last person leaves that plant. And they can deal with it. And then we'll look at Smirnoff's next.
That is key. We've been talking about Crown Royal to this point, but Diageo actually has multiple operations across the country. They employ 500 different people in Manitoba, Quebec, and Ontario. And there's a number of products, including Guinness, Bailey's, Smirnoff, Captain Morgan, you name it. So if he does decide to take it another step and start pulling products off the shelves, who knows where it's going to stop.
Where it's going to stop is in court, where Doug Ford will lose, because what he's proposing is not legal. So anyway, like I said, I started doing this on just because watching Doug Ford try to figure out, it's got a cap. How can I remove the cap? Just made me giggle. It made me laugh, and it still makes me laugh. But now it's kind of escalated into stupidity land. Well, no, correction. His struggling with the cap was always stupid land. But he's making it much worse. And, you know, he says he's standing up for people's jobs, but he's going to cost a hell of a lot more jobs than just those in that small town. And again, those people in the small town were offered replacement jobs in Manitoba and Quebec. So I don't know how many accepted or didn't accept. So I'm not going to comment on that. But some of them, it's not the full 200 jobs. That much we do know. So, you know, it's all performative art now. And this is what Canadian politics has become under the Carney and Ford partnership, is you can't take anything they say at face value. You know, they put on these shows, and, you know, Carney will do his slimy, you know, and you can't take anything they say at face value, you know, and that's not how we should be that's not what we should be getting from our politicians. So that's my let's talk for today. It's like Doug Ford, if he hasn't lost a screw, maybe he's drinking all the Crown Royal. And that's his plan to get rid of Crown Royal off the shelves, is he's just going to drink it all himself, and he's just drunk. You know, him and Elizabeth May are off in the corner somewhere. Who knows? You know, maybe Nancy Pelosi's with them, and, you know, hell of a party. Woo-woo. I don't know. It's ridiculous. It's like, you know, Doug Ford, if you're so worried about Canadian jobs, how about you start standing up for Canadian jobs? Ontario is not the only province in Canada. 200 workers do not compare to the thousands that have lost their jobs this year because of Mark Carney policies that you backed. Like, when do you start caring about them? You know, we see Premier Smith and Premier Moe, going out of their way defending their workers and the provinces, well, trying to get the other provinces to come together. And then we see BC and Quebec pushing back, saying, no, we don't want to work together. And then you got Ontario, who just sits there going, me. And I spent 20 years in Ontario under the Kathleen Wynne, Dalton McGuinty government, and Doug Ford reminds me of them. That's who he reminds me of. And the number one reason that he reminds me of that is Kathleen Wynne and Dalton McGuinty didn't give a crap about Ontario. They only cared about Toronto and the GTA, and that's what Doug, I mean, he didn't even know the name of the bloody town. You know, he got briefed on it, and yet he still couldn't remember the name of the town, but we're supposed to believe he cares about the town. Sorry, I don't buy it. I don't buy it for a second. And I think anyone that does is a fool. You know, long and the short is we need better politics on the provincial level. Like, I'm very happy with Danielle Smith in Alberta. I don't agree with everything she does, but I'm still very happy with her because I know she's standing up for Alberta. Same with Premier Moe in Saskatchewan. He's standing up for Saskatchewan. But outside of that, Canada needs better premiers. They definitely need a better federal government. And a lot of cities, including Edmonton and Calgary and Alberta, need better mayors. So, yeah, I don't know where it's heading. I really don't. So, anyway, that's Doug Ford has another meltdown, and I have another mocking video mocking Doug Ford, because at this point, it's really all you can do is mock him, laugh at him, and it's such a shame. I said it in my last video, I'll say it here again. I was a huge Rob Ford fan. It's a crying shame about the drugs. You know, drug addiction is a horrible thing. And yeah, you know, he in the end, he did need to be taken out of office because of his drug addiction. But while he was in office, if you ignored the drug addiction and just looked at what he did, Rob Ford was an amazing, amazing mayor for Toronto. Like, I remember when we had the provincial blackout for, I forget how long it was like a week or 2 weeks, and people were on the streets and everything. Rob Ford was out there every single day with blankets and food and aid and everything. You couldn't find Kathleen Wynne. She was nowhere to be found for the entire blackout. But Rob Ford was out there, and you know, he was handing out his business card, and amazingly enough, his business card had his home phone number. He's like telling his constituents, if you need anything in this time, you call me, day or night, call me at home. You know, and I wish Canada had politicians like that on every level of politics. But we don't. We have Mark Carney, who's an embarrassment. We have Doug Ford, who's a doughboy. We have Ebby out in BC, who's only interested in China. Oh, and yeah, in China. And, you know, Quebec is only interested in Quebec. It's a nation divided. And unfortunately, it looks like it's going to get divided. So, and Doug Ford's playing a major role in that division. So anyway, that's my Let's Talk video for this week. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like, a subscribe, and a share. I'm trying to grow my channel, and a like, a subscribe, and a share does me wonders, and I do appreciate it. It takes 1 second to subscribe, costs you absolutely nothing, helps me immensely. Just hit the subscribe button on the bottom of the screen. Always feel free to leave a comment. I encourage everybody to leave a comment. Not only does it get us interacting, but it really does help me with the YouTube algorithm and getting more eyes on my videos. And as always, pew, 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 and shit. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. Bye.